Welcome. Our guest today is Yakov Smirnoff, which is one of America's foremost and funniest Russian-born comics. And his success story is what Hollywood myths are made of. 10 years ago, Yakov and his family came to New York. They had less than $100 in their pocket, the story goes, and couldn't speak a word of English, and now he is extremely successful, a well-respected comic. His parents live in a mansion in Hollywood Hills. He drives expensive cars and seems to have a wonderful life. We're going to hear about that life today and how he was able to pull off all of his dreams, it seems. Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to take you back to your first life in Odessa, in Russia.
I don't want to go back.
Well, the life before this good life, and ask you what was it like for you growing up in Odessa? What kind of life did you have there before you decided to leave the country?
Well, it was an average Soviet life, I would say. It was going to school. My parents were working. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a building construction engineer. If I wouldn't cook the dinner, we wouldn't eat. So I was the homemaker, and it was fine because we didn't know anybody or anything better. We lived in a communal apartment with 5 other families, and sharing the kitchen, sharing the bathroom. We didn't have a shower. We'd have to go to communal showers, and that was normal. Once a week, that was okay. Everybody went once a week, so everybody smelled pretty much the same. Living with my parents in the same bedroom till I was 26 years old, that was normal. I was the only child, no wonder why. And when my parents would want to make love when I was a kid, they would send me to look out the window. And then my dad would say, "What do you see in the window?" I said, "Our neighbors making love." He said, "How can you tell?" I said, "Because their son is looking at me." So here we got to America, and things changed.
At what point, do you remember when your folks came home and said, Yakov, we're attempting to go to America, we've applied to exit the country?
Oh no, it was the other way around. It was me came home and said, okay. I think we're going to go.
Really?
Yeah,
you got tired of looking out the window?
That's right. My dad wanted to leave Soviet Union a long time ago, and I didn't, because my career as a comedian was progressing and I was doing very well, and I used to work on the cruise ships on the Black Sea, as they call it, love barge. And I was happy. I mean, I was doing good. And then as more things, one thing would come to another, the ships would go abroad and see the world, and I wouldn't. They would say, "No, you're staying home." And one thing led to another, and I also was fortunate to meet a lot of people from different countries on the cruise ships, because they were coming to the Soviet Union and they would go around on the Black Sea, and I would meet them because I was master of ceremonies and I had a contact with them one-on-one, and I started to realize those people are happier. They were fed before the show or something, you know. I saw American women and I said, what a country. And here I was, you know, ready to get out. So I finally talked to my parents and I said, let's give it a try. And some of my friends were leaving at the same time. It was 1975 or 79 when Brezhnev was showing off that he's a little bit lenient and he would let some people out. And
those were very high years of
yes, the best. Yeah, and I'm expecting that Gorbachev will probably do similar thing just to show off, which is fine, you know. I'm glad that they do that once in a while, you know.
Right.
And
once you applied to exit, we have heard from time to time that, you know, you lose your job, you lose your status, people turn away from you. Was that your experience?
Right. Yeah, very much so. Losing the job the moment you say, I want to go, and then they investigate you, and people turn away. It's like 60 minutes, pretty much, you know. One appearance and boom, you're gone. Or a Supreme Court nomination, one or another, you know.
We're going to get to those questions about pot smoking later. Now, you grew up. Your family was Jewish. I guess your parents are Jewish, but you had no sense of that when you were growing up.
Well, I'm partially. My mom is Jewish. My dad is not, and but nobody wanted to tell me anything about it till I was 13 and a half years old, because they were protecting me from anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. And that's the way I grew up. I grew up to dodge things when they fly my way, and I survived, you know, and it's not a pretty picture. And it's, as much as the Soviets are saying that there is freedom of religion, you know, they say you can worship however you want as long as you don't disturb other inmates, you're okay.
What do you remember about the day that you heard from the government, from the Soviet Union, that you were free to go, you and your family?
Well, I remember I was out of town and I called and my parents said that we were allowed to leave, and I had this was a kind of a physical thing I never experienced before. My lungs kind of opened up. All of a sudden I inhaled the air, and it was like, I felt like I'm almost free. I can get out. I mean, I was alive. Which doesn't necessarily mean at that moment that you are safely out, because you still have to go for a lot of preparing to pack the suitcases, and they do a lot of terrible things, making sure that all your relatives watch how terrible it is, how hard it is to get out.
Okay.
So
Like
they will not apply.
They twist every little bit.
Exactly. To the last moment. I mean, we were leaving from Odessa, and the train was leaving, like, let's say 10 minutes before it would move. They start searching your luggage, and you're looking at the train, and you know if you don't make this train, you're not leaving. So, and they do everything possible. They break things in front of you. They steal them right in front of you. They would just, you know, take the hat or whatever and just put it on and expecting you to explode, and then you'd be canned. As we had to kind of keep it inside and get out, and then the train started moving, and I had to pull my parents off the platform when the train was already moving, so I had to, you know, jump on the train and pull them off and threw the suitcases on, and that's the way. And we just said thank you. We're alive and we're okay.
And now you have even more to say thank you.
Yes, very much.
So
yes.
now it's 10 years ago, and you arrive in America. And is this a true story? You really did arrive, not speaking a word of English, because now you speak so beautifully, so articulate.
No, I mean, as many Soviet immigrants come here not knowing the word of English. I mean, maybe I knew how to say hello, how are you? Okay. But that's basically it.
All right. And you had a strong sense of wanting to come to this country and be a comic?
I did not know for sure. I mean, I wanted to get out of there. I knew that.
That for sure.
Right. And would I succeed here? I had no idea. So my hopes were to be a comedian. And in the immigration office, when we were at the Kennedy airport, through the interpreter, who was a Russian gentleman, and he did not speak perfect English, so we were at his mercy the way he would interpret things. They asked, what do you want to do in America? And I said, well, eventually I want to do comedy. And I got one of the biggest laughs I ever had. They were holding their stomachs. They were saying, oh, man, this is hilarious. And I thought, I'm doing great already. Right, exactly. But then they said, what did you do in Russia? And he tried to translate comedian, and he didn't know how to exactly translate. So he was explaining them that he was like a party organizer. And when they heard party organizer, you should have seen those guys jump.
Yeah.
They thought they got one, you know. And here I have no idea what's going on, and I'm looking around, and I see those guys are like staring at me, and this guy's nervous, sweating, the interpreter, and then he's saying, no, he comedian jokes. Oh, okay, fine. So
not the big party.
No, exactly. And
just the house party.
A little joke like that,
Right.
little mistake.
Eventually, well, after a short time, you wound up at Grossinger's, though, in
Right.
what is this is a very traditional starting point for comics, particularly Jewish comics in the Borscht Belt. And was that your first strong indication that you could make a living at this?
Well, I started as a bartender there, and actually busboy first, then a bartender, and then I could watch comedians there, and I started recognizing some jokes that I heard when I was a kid. So I said, well, that's who's stealing our material there. And more and more I said, I can do that.
This, yeah.
I can do that. I used to do that. And that's where actually I did my first performance. And it was weird because I performed for a group of senior citizens in the lobby. They had like afternoon performances. And they were like in their early 200s. And I started telling jokes, and they were smiling, they were polite and nice, but one woman in the back was like going, so I thought she was enjoying herself. She had seizures attack. and they willed, I mean, this is true, they willed her on the chair, and people were coming over to me, well, you were killing. I said, no, I didn't plan to, it just happened, you know. So it was interesting that the first performance was a killer performance.
A killer, right.
Yeah.
She nearly died laughing.
She nearly died, yeah.
Was your family, your parents at the time, were they kind of discouraging you from getting into entertainment? It's a risky career even for anyone.
Well, anybody, I mean, I don't know any parent who will say, go in show business, unless they are in show business. My parents never been in show business, and my mom would challenge me since I was a kid. You know, when I started doing it in Russia, she would say, well, we'll see. Then we got to America, I said, I want to do comedy. She said, well, we'll see. Now everything is fine. I bought them a house, and when I got the television series, I called my mom and I said, I got a series. She said, when can we put the pool in? I said, we'll see, Mom. You know? Mom becomes capitalistic pig. You know?
Well, I would imagine there might be a shred of truth there. Is it an adjustment to, because of your success, is there such a thing as, you know, too much material goods? Do you ever feel that perhaps even Americans don't understand how good they have it?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, at a certain level, you just don't need all what you have, and it's fun to have toys, but hard to keep the perspective. What are the values? How much you want to spend with your family? How much do you want to work to buy a helicopter or a boat?
Right.
I don't
know.
No
limit,
you know.
Right.
Exactly. In Soviet Union, you had a refrigerator, and you knew to get a car, it's now 10 years, so you were pretty content, you know. So there is some. I'm not going back. I'm not saying that it's better that way. But sometimes it's hard to keep the balance and say, this is more important than making more money or improving the career or whatever. And it's hard because Americans are very goal-oriented. And I like that. I mean, I don't mind it, but I find sometimes that I need to reevaluate certain things.
And what do you do to bring you to that more balanced state? Do you write?
Talk to people, right. Yeah, I talk to a lot of people. I read a lot of books that can help you to find certain balances in happiness and what makes other people happy, and not trying to discover everything by myself. I feel that people have discovered it before, so why not just follow their steps? And that's what I try to do.
Okay.
And when I write, you pointed out that we have a book to show. Yeah, the book called American 6 Rubles a Day, and that was very gratifying to create actually a book, something that people can keep for many years. And
we should say it's called America on 6 Rubles a Day, and it's doing well.
It's doing great. It went into second printing after 2 weeks. Well, first printing was 2 copies, and my parents bought it, right? But it's a number 2 book after Bill Cosby's book.
Was it your pardon me? Was it your idea to write a book?
Well, yes and no. I wanted to write a book, but Random House offered me to write an autobiography, and I said, I'm not dead yet. And they said, well, what would you like to write? And I said, I wouldn't mind funny experiences of my life that could help people to adjust to this country, or show Americans how silly sometimes it is to live here and deal with American expressions, or buying a car, or getting a girl in a car, whatever, you know, all those things. And it's a nice present for the holidays.
Did writing come easy to you when you sat down? I mean, it's one thing to perform your own material.
No, it wasn't at first. No, because I did not understand what the Random House wanted from me. And so first assignment, they said, we want you to capture what you are on stage. So I gave them what I am on stage. And then they said, no, this is a book. I said, well, you wanted what's on stage. I gave it to you. So then I had to rewrite, and I had a couple of friends of mine helping me with this book to translate it into English in a way of Americans dealing with it better as in a book form. And I think it turned out real nice. I read it and I laugh.
You laugh?
Yeah.
Well, I'll laugh too. You talk about Americans as being goal-oriented. I guess one of your goals, I read, when you came to this country early on, was to entertain for the president in the White House.
Yeah.
And that really has come to pass.
Right. Yeah, that's been wonderful. I mean, I get a call from my agent saying that you're going to be performing in front of President Reagan's cabinet. And I said, what a country. I always wanted to see Nancy's China. And they said, no, it's actual performance. And I was lucky. I mean, I had the chance to actually have dinner with the president. It was very intimate dinner, about 6 people. And for about 2.5 hours, we just kept talking about different issues and exchanging jokes, and it was wonderful. I mean,
he was awake the entire time?
He was awake and he was very aware. It's amazing how, I mean, again, I'm not trying to defend him, and a lot of people feel that, you know, he's forgetting things and stuff like that. And I think he was very alert and remembered more things that I could ever expect a gentleman that age to. He kept like popping those jokes like that.
Really?
You know? Yeah, was very charming, very interesting man. So I'm a fan. I think he's also an American dream in a way, starting from scratch and becoming a president. I admire that.
Did he ask you about
Soviet Union?
Soviet Union. I mean, apart from the joke responses.
Oh, sure.
Did he really?
Sure. We talked some. Yeah, he was talking about Gorbachev's meeting in Iceland at that time. Was it Iceland? Yeah, I think.
Reykjavik, in Iceland.
And he was sharing certain experiences that was interesting to know that he caught on. I mean, for an American.
He is president.
No. I mean, he's an American-born person, and there's certain traits in what Soviet's character can do that. For Americans, it's just absolutely foreign.
For instance?
It's just the way they operate, the way, you know, they can say one thing and they do another or whatever. It's a pattern that American businessmen would do sometimes, but most of the time they're pretty stable here to stick with their word, because that's in Soviet Union, that's not necessarily what it is.
So in this most current exchange around nuclear, about the arms treaty, which has been negotiated and may soon be settled, do you sense that Americans are naive, that the administration is believing words that are really not intended to be?
In a way, sometimes, yes. But there is a way that Reagan could get what he wants. You know, if Gorbachev will keep all the missiles out of Europe, if Reagan guarantees to keep Raisa Gorbachev out of Bloomingdale's, I have a feeling he has a case.
It's a good exchange.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had read that that the president so admired your material that he ended up using a joke or two.
Well, I mean, it's been like kind of established thing now that when I hear some good jokes, I call the White House and his writers and his aides, and I say, guys, did you hear this one and that one? And then, you know, they call me once in a while and say, did you hear this one? So it became a very nice relationship.
So what you're saying here is that to some extent, you're writing some jokes.
No. I mean, I don't write them. It's the jokes that Soviet people write. I mean, people in Soviet Union, the underground humor is so huge. I mean, every time something happens, here Johnny Carson walks on TV and does the monologue basically on whatever happened today. In Soviet Union, they have no luxury like that, so the Soviet people will switch jokes around and talk about the Gorbachev or whoever whatever isn't happening today. I was on WGM radio, whatever.
WGN radio in Chicago.
And there was a gentleman who took pictures. It's a book, A Day in the Life of the Soviet Union, which is out now. And he was telling some jokes that he heard in the Soviet Union, that some 2 guys are standing to get some vodka in line for vodka, and they're frustrated that Gorbachev cut down on alcohol and stuff like that. And the one got so frustrated, he said, okay, I'm leaving from this line, and I'm going, and I'm going to shoot Gorbachev. That's it, you know. And he goes there, and a few hours later, he comes back. This guy is still in the line, and he said, well, what happened? He said, well, I went there, but the line to shoot him was longer than this one, so I came back.
Oh.
So I heard this joke about Brezhnev and Kosygin and whatever. It was old stuff that they switch around, and so it's funny stuff because people show their frustration through the humor, and I don't see anything wrong with somebody collecting those jokes. The whole Soviet Union does. Why not?
Oh, you're referring to Reagan as the collector of those jokes.
Yeah.
No, I think it's perfectly okay. How do you keep your pipeline going? I mean, do you read Russian papers and call home?
I don't call. No, I don't call home. I'm not ET. But I meet people who come here to visit. I meet people who go there to visit.
Okay.
I read Pravda. I read Russian papers here published in America. So I basically
so you do keep
stand
it.
up.
So I'll go back to this issue of glasnost. Do you sense then what is projected as a change in the Soviets' attitudes toward a variety of things, including human rights? Is this deceptive? Or should we believe? Are they just like us? Should we believe?
Well, there is no answer to this. I mean, I can't be an expert and say yes, no. I think what I would recommend is to be aware and be aware of the history of the Soviet Union, of 70 years of and all of a sudden we have a drastic change. Well, is it just an illusion or it's true? We don't know. So when we go into negotiations, let's be aware of it, and if it is an illusion, we'll know, and if it's not, then let's go with it. I'm for those two countries to be able to exist together because, first of all, America and Soviet Union, which was in the speech of Gorbachev, he said that America and Soviet Union produces 95% of bombs in the world, and the rest 5% produced by Fox Network. But there are things that all of us have in jeopardy, and I feel that if those two countries be able to communicate, I'm probably going to benefit the most. I can work both countries and make double the money, you know.
In the news recently, we read that Baryshnikov was allowed to go back and visit.
Nureyev.
Oh,
Nureyev,
pardon me.
yeah.
Thank you,
No problem.
Nureyev. Was able to go back.
Right.
And is this something? Do you think about that as something you want to do?
No.
This is
No,
not.
no. I'm happy. I like things you have here.
We like you here.
Yes, I
You
like
must stay.
things that they didn't have in Russia, like warning shots, and those are great. In Russia, they don't shoot up in the air; they shoot you, and that's warning for the next guy. I rather stick around here.
Okay. If one of your dreams of meeting with the president has now been fulfilled,
Right.
Tell us, and you've done, I mean, if we recount what you've been able to accomplish, besides really a wonderful reputation as a very funny comic, well-deserved,
Thanks.
you do have your book, you've done several films,
Yes.
You will be doing a video, you've had a syndicated television series. Are you goal-oriented? Do you make lists for yourself and say, well, next I want to like run AT&T, or what is on your list of goals?
That's not a bad idea. I guess I feel that one of my priorities would be to have some family life. I'm not married and I never were, and so I feel that would be nice to be able to do. And I'm currently involved and I'm very happy. So, and have some time for me, because all the projects that you named, and they are there and I want to do more, but they are very time consuming. So I need to find a balance. That would be something I would like to produce. I would like to direct, which I'm starting, like I did Good Morning America segments, and I was executive producer of those pieces, and I enjoyed it because it was like writing a book. It was from scratch, and then you see the final project and you feel that, hey, I could put those things together. It was nice. But overall goal is to achieve enough to be able to do things at my own pace. And the pace will include, hopefully, having kids, a family, spend time with my parents, and not just being on the road and promoting things, but spending some time on producing. And so the balance, basically, that's my next goal, and that's hopefully what I'm going to achieve.
I don't doubt it. Do you, whose films do you admire? When you think about perhaps writing your own work or directing, is there a particular filmmaker
I like
you
Paul Mazursky. I liked what he'd done. It was Moscow on the Hudson.
Right. Now, and you
I
had
was
a
in
part in
that,
Moscow
yeah.
on the Hudson.
And I felt that he is one of those producer-directors who puts enough energy in creating one project a year, like what he did with Down and Under in Beverly Hills, for example. And then he goes away for a few months and relaxes and thinks about next things, and then goes on and does quality product. That's what I would like to do.
You know, very often when they look at people who are high achievers and also workaholics or keep an active pace, it's because they've been deprived in their early life, so that they can like never get enough. Is that do you sometimes, maybe even in dreams, do you sometimes think that, well, it's all gone, it was an illusion, and wake up and...
Sure, yeah. I was just in Las Vegas, where I appeared in the Golden Nugget, first time headlining, and it was kind of like Twilight Zone episode, because I was there for a week. I was on the cover of every magazine there is there. I was on every billboard that you could see. I mean, it was just incredible. You pinch yourself and you're saying, is it me or it's Memorex? And then you realize it's me, but it could be Gone Tomorrow. So you trying to grab onto it as well. But that's what I'm trying to achieve, is to get to the level that they offered me 2 years contract, for example, which gives me a nice pace of 5 weeks a year or 8 weeks a year going to Las Vegas, so I know where I'm going to be, which is wonderful. It's not far from Los Angeles. I'm going to go there, enjoy myself, enjoy performing there, and it establishes that I don't have to go on the road as much to make a living, and I like that. So that's where I'm going towards.
And how have your parents adjusted to this? Because I mean, you were a relatively young man when you came, but for your parents, it must have been.
Yeah, it's harder for them, obviously, but they're enjoying my success, and they're.
Do they understand your success? Do they think, oh, you deserved it, or do they think it's a fluke?
No, I think at this point they realize that it's probably there for a long time, and at first, obviously, it was like, no, it can't be, and now it's there, and for them it's harder to adjust because, obviously they think that don't squeeze the Charmin is a law. Things like that. So I have to deal with that on an everyday basis, and I don't mind. I think it's fun.
Well, this is fun. America on 6 Rubles a Day by Yakov Smirnoff. I've enjoyed talking to you very much.
Thank you. I did too.
Very funny, and I hope you write more books, more things.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank all of you, and we hope that you'll join us again soon. Shalom.